We spend our lives chasing an illusion, the belief that if we could just arrange all the pieces correctly, happiness would finally arrive and stay. We tell ourselves, when I get that promotion, when I find the right partner, when I lose those 20 pounds, when I have enough money in the bank, when my children succeed, when my health improves, when the weather is better, when people treat me fairly, then I will be happy. We construct elaborate mental architectures of conditional joy, always placing our contentment just beyond the horizon of the present moment. But this is a fundamental misunderstanding of the nature of happiness itself. Before we begin, if you enjoy this video, give me a like, comment below about your thought and hit subscribe button so you don't miss any video inspired by Yogananda's teaching. Thank you very much. Perfection, even if it were achievable, would not deliver the lasting fulfillment we seek. This is not pessimism or resignation, it is liberation. When we truly understand that external perfection cannot be the source of inner peace, we stop exhausting ourselves in a futile pursuit and begin to look in the right direction. Consider for a moment those rare periods in your life when circumstances did align beautifully. Perhaps you achieved a long-sought goal, or enjoyed a perfect vacation, or experienced a stretch of days when everything seemed to flow effortlessly. What happened to that happiness? It flickered, didn't it? It came and went like a candle flame in the wind. New desires arose. New problems emerged. The mind, restless by nature, immediately began seeking the next thing, the next improvement, the next perfection. This is because happiness that depends on external conditions is inherently unstable. The world is in constant flux. Circumstances change. Bodies age. Relationships evolve. Fortunes rise and fall. Weather shifts. Seasons turn. To anchor your happiness to the external world is to build your house upon sand, guaranteeing that it will eventually crumble. The mind itself is the problem, or more precisely, our identification with the mind's endless commentary and demands. The mind is never satisfied. It is designed to seek, to want, to compare, to judge. Give it everything it asks for, and it will immediately generate new requirements. This is not a flaw, it is simply the nature of the thinking mind. It is a tool for navigating the material world, for solving problems, for planning and analyzing. But it is a terrible master. When we believe that our happiness depends on perfecting our external circumstances, we become slaves to an impossible task. We spend our energy trying to control the uncontrollable, trying to make the impermanent permanent, trying to force the world to conform to our preferences. This creates tremendous suffering, not because we fail to achieve perfection, but because the very attempt is based on a misunderstanding. True happiness is not found in the realm of circumstances. It exists in a different dimension entirely. In the quality of our consciousness, in our relationship to the present moment, in the depth of our inner awareness. This happiness is not dependent on anything external. It does not require perfect health, perfect relationships, perfect weather, or perfect anything. It is available right now, in this moment, regardless of conditions. This may sound abstract or mystical, but it is actually quite practical. Think of a time when you were completely absorbed in something. Perhaps creating art, playing with a child, walking in nature, or engaged in meaningful work. In those moments, the thinking mind quieted. You were not comparing your experience to some ideal. You were not worried about the future or ruminating about the past. You were simply present, and in that presence, there was a natural sense of peace and even joy, regardless of whether your circumstances were perfect. This state of presence is always available. It does not need to be created or achieved. It simply needs to be recognized and returned to. The obstacle is our habitual identification with the mind's narrative, the constant stream of thoughts about what should be different, what needs to be fixed, what is lacking. When we observe this mental pattern without judgment, something remarkable happens. we begin to see that we are not our thoughts. We are the awareness in which thoughts arise. This awareness is spacious, peaceful, and complete. It does not need anything to be different. It is already whole. From this perspective, we can still engage with the world, still work toward goals, still prefer certain outcomes over others. But there is a fundamental shift in our relationship to these things. We no longer believe that our happiness depends on them. We act from a place of inner fullness rather than inner lack. We participate in life without being enslaved by it. This is not about becoming passive or indifferent. It is about discovering a source of happiness that is independent of circumstances, and then engaging with life from that foundation. When we are not desperately seeking happiness through external perfection, we actually become more effective in the world. We make clearer decisions. We relate to others more authentically. We bring more creativity and energy to our endeavors because we are not burdened by the anxiety of needing everything to be perfect. The irony is that when we stop demanding perfection from life, life often becomes more enjoyable. We notice beauty in ordinary moments. We appreciate what is rather than constantly focusing on what is missing. We develop resilience in the face of challenges because our fundamental well-being is not threatened by temporary difficulties. This does not mean we should not work to improve our circumstances or address genuine problems. If you are in an unhealthy relationship, it makes sense to address that. If you are in poor health, it makes sense to take care of your body. If you are in financial difficulty, it makes sense to work toward stability. But these actions can come from wisdom and self-care rather than from the desperate belief that happiness is impossible until everything is perfect. The difference is subtle but profound. When we act from inner wholeness, we bring a different quality to our actions. We are not grasping or desperate. We are not trying to fill an inner void with external achievements. We are simply responding appropriately to life's circumstances while remaining anchored in a deeper peace. Many spiritual traditions point to this truth in different ways. They speak of finding the kingdom of heaven within, of discovering your true nature, of awakening to what you already are. These are not just poetic metaphors. They are pointing to a direct experience that is available to anyone willing to look beyond the mind's endless demands for external perfection. The practice is simple, though not always easy. It involves repeatedly returning your attention to the present moment, to the direct experience of being alive right now. It involves noticing when the mind is creating suffering through its stories about what should be different, and gently releasing identification with those stories. It involves discovering the space of awareness that exists prior to thought, the consciousness that is reading these words right now. In this space, there is already peace. There is already a sense of okayness that does not depend on circumstances. This is not a peace that you create or achieve. It is a peace that you recognize as your fundamental nature when the mind's agitation settles. From this recognition, a different kind of happiness emerges. Not the fleeting pleasure that comes from getting what you want, but a deeper contentment that is not disturbed by the ups and downs of life. This happiness can coexist with sadness, with challenge, with imperfect circumstances. It is not dependent on everything being perfect because it comes from a dimension of your being that is already complete. This is the great secret that the mind cannot grasp: you are already whole. You do not need to become whole by perfecting your circumstances. You need only to recognize the wholeness that is already present, hidden beneath the mind's constant commentary about what is wrong or lacking. When you touch this truth, even briefly, everything changes. You still engage with life, still have preferences, still work toward goals. But there is a lightness, a freedom, a sense of play. You are no longer carrying the impossible burden of needing everything to be perfect in order to be happy. You have found the source of happiness within, and from that foundation, you can meet life as it is, imperfect, changing, unpredictable, and yet somehow, mysteriously, enough. This is not a destination you arrive at once and for all. It is a recognition that deepens over time, a truth you return to again and again as the mind pulls you back into its familiar patterns. But each return is easier. Each recognition is clearer. And gradually, this inner happiness becomes the ground of your being rather than a fleeting experience. So let go of the exhausting pursuit of external perfection. Let go of the belief that happiness is waiting for you in some future moment when everything finally aligns. Look within. Discover the peace that is already present. And from that peace, engage with life, not as a desperate seeker, but as one who has already found what they were looking for. Everything being perfect will not make you happy. But recognizing the perfection of your own being, the completeness of this present moment, the wholeness that exists prior to all circumstances, this is the happiness that the mind cannot give you and the world cannot take away.